hundreds of demonstrators have clashed with law enforcement officers in the capital, Accra. This chaos follows Tuesday's clash, which saw at least 29 demonstrators arrested. They were led by a youth group calling itself Arise Ghana. They are protesting over fuel price hikes, a tax on electronic payments, and other levies as Ghana grapples with spiraling inflation. So let's now discuss this further. We have Jonathan Offei-Ansah. He is the founder and publisher of Africa Briefing magazine. He joins us via Zoom from London. Thank you very much, Jonathan, for joining us tonight. So this, of course, was the second day of this protest that began yesterday in Accra. They, of course, protesting over spiraling inflation and other economic challenges. How bad is the situation in Ghana? Paint us a picture.
Well, the situation is rather bad. I mean, inflation, the measure has accelerated to 0.6%. That's the fastest pace since January 2004, right? Food inflation has also climbed to 30.1%. And to top it up, the government's introduction of the 1.5% e-levy, that is on all electronic bank transfers, mobile money, as we call it, has also all added, to the worsening situation. So the people are fed up. You mentioned fuel prices have gone up. Yeah, it's not all the government's fault. Most countries, for every country, is coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, right? And now the Russia-Ukraine war has set in, right? Accelerating, food shortages and the attendant rise in food prices. So, it's a combination of situations, of factors that has led, to this general resentment, general, disgruntlement amongst Ghanaians who embark on this Arise Ghana protest yesterday and today.
So we know that growth has slowed to 3.3% year on year in the first quarter of this year. Inflation in Ghana has hit a record 27.6%. That was last month. So the question is, are government efforts to redress the economic situation enough? Are they working?
Well, from where I'm sitting, I'm not sure they're working because, look, the government was expecting to raise about $75 million, from the introduction of the e-levy, that is the levy on mobile money transactions, right? But so far, they've been able to raise only 10%. Why? Because most people, those who can afford that 1.5% levy, have stopped, making mobile transactions. So the government's affected. And maybe the only recourse left to the government now is maybe to go to IMF. But meanwhile, last month or earlier this month, the central government, the central bank announced that it's going to buy gold locally in order to prop, the deteriorating cedi, that's the local currency. But that is too early. The budget they announced are too early, to yield any results now. So it appears, the government, I'm not sure right now, from where I'm sitting, I'm not sure the government has any fresh ideas to revive the economy, short of going to the IMF. And that is something it is very, very reluctant to do because whilst this government was in opposition, it took the then government, the DC government of John Mahama, to task. Ridiculed it for rushing to IMF to solve Ghana's economic problems. So, having that in mind, this government, now that they are in government, the parties in government, right? They are very reluctant to go. And again, they cite, many reasons like the conditions the IMF might impose, for any rescue deal might impact, on their programs, like the free secondary school education and so on and so forth. So from where I'm sitting, I don't see any fresh ideas the government might adopt to rescue the economy for the doldrums.
So let's talk about one of the measures that you touched on, which is, of course, buying gold locally. That was announced by the Bank of Ghana last month in order to strengthen this cedi. We know, of course, the Ghanaian cedi has been among the worst performing African currencies this year. We've been talking about it much of this year. So has this worked to ease the situation on forex reserves in the country?
Well, it's too early for the measure to show any results, like I said earlier on, because the central government announced this measure, I think, earlier this month or late last month. So, I mean, it will be too early to judge how far, how successful, that measure, has been or not.
And Jonathan, like you said earlier on, Ghana really isn't the only nation that is experiencing spiraling inflation. We've been seeing this across many other countries in the continent. So is what we are seeing in Ghana likely to be repeated in Africa? What do you think?
I mean, do you mean the protest?
Yes.
Well, you see, look, I always look at each country has its own internal dynamics. So what has happened in Ghana doesn't necessarily mean that it could happen, elsewhere in Africa. Look, let's go back to about 10, 11 years ago, when the Tunisia started the Arab Spring. Most of us analysts thought that that Arab Spring, will spread down to Sub-Saharan Africa, but it never did. Why? Because the dynamics, in Sub-Saharan Africa are entirely different from the dynamics of in the Maghreb region. So, therefore, the dynamics in Ghana, the nuances in Ghana are entirely different from maybe the nuances in maybe, say, Nairobi, Kenya, where you are broadcasting from. So I cannot say that this protest, might spread across, the whole region. No.
All right, Jonathan, thank you very much for your time tonight. We've been speaking to Jonathan Offei-Ansah live for us in London.